All right, just had to check and see what was going on with that. Hey, everybody. I am camping. You could probably hear the wind in the background. This particular camp place is extremely windy. And, everything kind of has, the thing about nature is that everything kind of has, in some ways is good for us to deal with because it can irritate us, in different ways that can actually, bring things up. And so this kind of wind is just kind of, I don't know the word, I think it's going to be like relentless. So I've been in a period of, marathon, energetic, relentless. And so I'm having to deal with, aspects of my life. And some of it's been pretty tough, I'm really going through some deep stuff. So, because I have to lose weight and I need to get in a lot better shape. And I'm still, pretty traumatized from a lot of things that have happened to me. But I'm in super recovery. So nice, gentle, effortless kind of lifetime recovery. So I was thinking about, I was talking on my radio show, on Saturday about this series, and that kind of kicked me to the floor because there was an item in it. And basically it was this Netflix series on this multiple personality guy named Billy Milligan. And early on in the series, they have a father that's so abusive that people know. There were people that, witnessed this guy, getting harmed by the father, and that the father one time beat the mother up so badly there was like blood and teeth on the floor, and the mom looked horrible. And the police came, and one of the brother asked the police, you guys are not going to do anything about my mother and what's happening? And the police said, well, if your mother would have been a better wife. It was just, I know that I'm kind of this bridge between, two types of women. The old ones, the ones that, I don't even know how women put on a dress and look nice and presentable with what they had to deal with. So anyway, so it brought up a whole bunch of stuff, and I was thinking about, for a woman, even if you are educated, I'm pretty educated, a lot of the stuff that I do. But it doesn't matter. It's like, the system, it's probably the US. I don't know. I've only lived in a few places, but it's like you have to, HOOChY. You have to hoe yourself up. And there's always like a line of, how far you're going to go. Some people, go really far. So during a period of my life when I was about 21, I got the opportunity to cocktail waitress in Reno or Las Vegas. And for somebody like me, it was a huge amount of money. I didn't really even realize like how much money. It was so much money that you had to make agreements with the IRS in them just taking a percentage out of your paycheck that they felt was not being covered by your claiming your tips and your taxes annually. So back then I was a super, hot Chiquita banana. And, I was still doing a lot of modeling and, stuff like that as well. So, but, you know, anyway, so, I ended up applying to this place called the Western Village. And the Western Village is like kind of the test tube for pepper mills. And Western Village was where all of the hottest, girls worked. It was kind of like a big deal. You had to, I know it sounds totally discriminatory, but you had to, look, good. And so I ended up getting the job. And my boss was such a cool boss. And he was like straight up, and upfront and just super, he was just a super great guy. And he said, you need to go pick up your uniform, and then you need to go home and you need to put it on and you need to wear it. And then, if you decide that you can't do the job, then just call me and let me know and return the uniform. And I was like, oh. And he said a lot of people, can't wear it because it's a lot. But I'd modeled, so I thought, I've worn like leather thongs. I mean, like I wasn't kinky or anything. Just did some, calendar type stuff, thingy. Anyway. So, so you have to have, so this is like during this time period. So you have to have a minimum of 2-inch heel. And I don't know, it's like, I think your feet are permanently damaged after a certain period of time, and maybe like even 6 months. A lot of the girls were constantly going to podiatrists, and they were sticking needles into their joints and extracting fluid out of, it pretty crazy. And this is before they had, more of the, kind of, men dressing up like women. Now they have, you could buy some really industrial heels, but back then, not so much. And so anyway, I went home and I put the uniform on, and it was pretty crazy. It had, you had a, because everyone's boobs look good in a push-up bra, so everybody had to wear a push-up bra, and I've always been kind of bigger, and so even though I was tiny, I had these huge boobs with a push-up bra. And ended up having just to wear like a normal bra, and that was like, but you have this push-up bra you have to wear all day, which really hurts your shoulders, and because it's a lot of weight and the way that it's pushing up kind of on your lymph nodes too, your areas, your draining area, it's pretty tough on. So, and then you're, in your 2 or 3 inch heels, and the uniform is kind of like really high cut, around the everything and around the butt, and then thick nylons. I mean, but kind of see-through nylons, but thick, because you had to wear them for your varicose veins and stuff like that, and just general pain on your legs. And regular nylons would not hold up. So, you had these $18 nylons. Support hose. And then you had kind of a 3-piece suit, the inner piece, kind of a thing, and how it was wound up around all of it. And then, they customized your size to make sure everything, fit. And then you had this kind of, like dinner kind of coaty thing that kind of just covered your butt and your arms. And then it was attached on. And, yeah, so it was a lot. And, I look back now and I think, it's like such a HOOChY Mama thing. And it's how they, get you to sell out, maybe into other stuff. And there was some really interesting stuff that was going on there at that time. There were, I was there maybe a year and a half or something like that. And there were women, that also kind of prostituted. It was known that they prostituted on the side. And at one point we had, there was a car parked in the parking lot, with a dead body in it. And I can't remember. I don't know if it was one of the cocktail waitresses that worked there or whatever, but it was kind of a big, and so, we started, carrying stun guns and stuff like that. Uh-oh, here comes the wind. Here comes the wind. All right, let me just block that out for a minute. Oh. Anyway, I go home. Sorry, I have allergies too right now. So I go home, I try on, the cocktail waitress outfit, and it was pretty, and I had to think about, I have to walk around in this all day, I'm 21, and so I'm like, I'll just get over it. But I was really self-conscious for a couple of days, and then after that, you're like, you just don't even notice that what you're wearing, because you're just working your butt off and your feet are just killing you. It takes maybe a month for your feet to finally, and I think it's just because you just cut them off at your brain, your feet just don't exist anymore. But it takes your feet about a month to totally conform to, walking 15 miles a day in them on a concrete floor, and just the drastic changes in your body. I mean, there are drastic changes, as an osteopath. There's huge changes between you walking on the pad of your foot and you walking on your heels. And for women, because we walk with our hips, men walk with their lower back, right? But women walk with our hips. So we start throwing ourselves forward into those front feet, onto the pad because of the high heel. It lurches our body kind of forward in a natural way. And so then all the muscles develop in your whole body to support that. So it's kind of an arduous thing to have, that fixed after a period of time where your feet have just kind of, molded into that kind of a fashion, and all of the other, muscles support it. So it's really kind of, not a good, high heels are not in any way, shape, or form good for women or anyone. Yeah, it's also there's a lot of foot binding kind of stuff that goes on with it. But anyway, so, I was a good cocktail waitress, and I always like to work the small sections, like the nickels and stuff, because I had a lot of the people wanted to work the tables. But, if you were working the tables, you had a tendency to get belt up, grab your junk. A lot of these guys, they felt like if you were coming around the table, and the thing is, you kind of have to lean in on both sides, you have to lean in to put the drink down or whatever else. So they could just, reach out, and there were a lot of times where, men just grabbed you that way kind of inappropriately, which was kind of a crazy thing. I'd always have them removed, but anyway, so so I did that, and I remember, they made the Kino runners, wear high heels and stuff too, and I remember, after being there about a year, I remember this Kino runner, she was new, and I remember at the end of her shift, she took off her nylons, and she had her feet in the sink, the hand washing sink, trying to fill it up with cold water, and she just was crying. Her feet were just she wasn't even sure she could walk home. So that was a period of my life where I just kind of shut down and made money. I've been thinking a lot about the Hopi, reading Hopi, book on the Hopi that was written like around, I think, 1906 or something, and about, you know, them living like we're in the fifth extinction, what the other four extinctions were like, what happened, and, you know, kind of like their strategies today of being good people, you know, being humble people, and how they live. And I was thinking, you know, it really is true that we still haven't kind of, you know, gotten the HOOChY Mama out of our culture. And anyone that knows me, you know, like, I'm trying to be as open as possible, you know, and take in lots of different information and try to absorb it and integrate it and think about it, and how does it apply to me? How does it apply to the world around me? And I think that we need to really take the HOOChY out of society. And, you know, I'm not saying go all out Muslim, but I had a friend of mine tell me one time, who, I don't know, you know, I could say that maybe her faith was Muslim, I don't know, but one of those types of religions, you know, over there, that uses the Quran. And one of the things she said was that, you know, if they follow the Quran, you know, in the Quran it talks about women, and that, and this is kind of the extreme end of it, right? Because we had to talk about that. But, you know, the extremity is that in the Quran, like, if you get raped or something like that, that you deserved it because, I think it says something because, you know, men basically can't help themselves. So if you cover yourself up, you know, you're taking more and more responsibility to keep the attention, the visual attention, you know, off of yourself. And you know what? It totally works. You know, I've been doing this ninja thing where, you know, I'm really looking at situations that are in front of me and deciding, you know, if I'm going to or if I'm not going to engage the situation. And I'm finding more and more that I just choose not to engage it. And I can, not that I'm making myself invisible, but I'm minimizing my impact with the outside world. And it's kind of interesting because I kind of really decided to use this strategy lately. Just keep my head down, you know, just, you know, be humble, stay away from people, you know, don't be on their radar. And I kind of learned this from Keanu Reeves, because he's on Telegram now. And he was saying, you know, don't tell people about your relationships. Don't tell people about your job. Don't tell people about, you know, your money and what you're making. Don't tell people about any of it. You know, because basically the eye will be on you, and that attention could destroy what you have that is good and beautiful. So I'm just trying to take the strategy kind of as the peaceful warrior, you know, like the silent thing, not as a strategy, you know, to like, you know, like martial arts strategy, but like a spiritual strategy to see how little conflict that or how much conflict that I inadvertently bring into my life by being nice and trying to talk to people. I don't have to be rude to people either. I can just be silent. And, you know, I have nothing. You know, I've got gray hair. I'm chubby right now. I'm chubby. And I'm living in my van and trying to, you know, keep it together. Trying to keep it together. and so nobody's interested, and so I'm minimizing my impact that way as well. And so I'm dealing with a lot of this feminine stuff, that happened to women in my family. Has definitely happened to me. And yes, when I was mom, there are a lot of inappropriate stuff. A lot of the photographers would favor you if, you favored them. They'd favor you with jobs and stuff like that. And I wasn't really into that stuff. And so I've, as a woman, and it's almost like a relief to actually be fat. I was thinking about that the other day. To be like totally unwanted and shunned from the culture, because it's kind of actually a gift. So that there's just, you can focus in on what you need to focus in on. And it makes you stealth. I mean, surprisingly, the bigger you are, the more invisible you are. So, I mean, it's an interesting thing. So, yeah, this all goes along with, me being human trafficked between 17 and 18 years old by somebody I know or knew at the time. And so this is all kind of part of it. And about, where I may have engaged things, where I may have sold out, where maybe I have to forgive myself because I didn't know the difference. And you didn't know what was going on legitimately. So I haven't really been putting videos out because a lot of this stuff is pretty, intense to deal with. And I'm not really sure if people want to hear, videos about my catharticism. Catharting. But I think, like, if we're going to be dealing with, human trafficking, and I also want to say, like, I've spent my whole life trying to figure out how to unravel even stuff that I didn't know was not in my conscious mind. When I had brain cancer, my brain cracked. I work with a lot of people that have, traumatic brain injuries. Like a friend of mine, she got one and she was in a motorized wheelchair. And she couldn't find anyone to help her. Even though thousands and thousands of dollars were spent, she went to all kinds of doctors. And then I've been working on her, and she's been out of a wheelchair now, I think about 4 months. And she's even danced, for the first time about a month ago. And we just keep moving her forward, but we're also unraveling. I think she kind of went through a big awakening too during the point of this big truck. She said she could see it in the rearview mirror and she knew it was going to slam her. And she was like, I think even in a coma. But one thing I want to say is working on people and then developing more techniques onto that, how to unravel, like especially pelvis stuff around the organs, hip joints, the rectal area, lower back definitely, the neck, and those are really important parts when you've been human trafficked or sexually abused that have to actually be open. And it has to be manually done, and it can be pretty fast. The body, depending on how young the person is, it can unravel them. And my personal opinion is like people don't really have that great of a future if they don't get unraveled from this really deep, intense stuff that's just like hidden inside the body, like that develops what William Reich called the character armor. And once the character armor is complete, as the person's aging because of all this stuff, that's the chemistry basically you're going to be creating. So however that character image is, you might have a defensive, permanent muscle structure because it's locked in from everything. So that stuff has to be, unraveled and unlocked. And in order for, and those organs and all that stuff have to be released, and the brain has to be reconnected to them. This is what I do. So anybody out there, there's so much information out there about, there's now Palladian healing for sexually trafficked, sexual abuse, all this different stuff going on. But bottom line, best long-term results are to find somebody like myself. I wish more people were interested in the kind of work I do. I don't really feel like I'm going to have a legacy. So I'm taking really old world arts, medicine, and food, down to the food level and the soil level, and developing it into more modern practices. And so I'm actually creating medicine of the future. Like I totally feel that way. The other night, I'm dealing with a client that, because of everything that's gone on, I'm not really sure where the pressure point is. And I think that they may be kind of under a spell. This is kind of when there's been a lot of traumatic stuff that's happened to them, and they're kind of more roboted, zombie out, but functioning, high functioning. And I was shown these interesting points. And what was more interesting is that the teacher that was teaching me showed me that they, instead of needles and using your hands and stuff, that they also had these little things that caused a little temporary dent. And so anybody out there that develops, healing machines, or new Dr. Diamond, the homeopath here in Reno, unbelievable man. He was my doctor when he was alive, but he developed like an acupoint machine where he could see, it would light up. He could go to places on your body and just find exactly, that point, and then treat it. And people were buying these machines. He was like way ahead of his time, but maybe even a machine that, and so if there's anybody out there that's developing this stuff that wants to give me a call to talk about what I saw, and that maybe we could make it and utilize it, because I think it could be pretty amazing. It's like a higher level, like I don't know. But anyway, so they were showing me like on the chin how they would use these pressure, but would leave kind of a dent, and it was like a certain type shapes of dents. So the way that these things were made left, different types of impressions, which was very interesting. Anyway, all right, so with that, I think that going back to this whole HOOChY Mama thing, and working on forgiving, you know, parts of my life and things that happened to me, you know, consciously or unconsciously. I just kind of wanted to talk about them. And for anyone out there that's dealing with sexual abuse or human trafficking, or maybe has children that, you know, similar things have happened to. And just also, you know, I know Eckhart Tolle talks a lot about how sometimes, you know, some of us do a lot more deep healing and emotional release because we're also helping the collective to be able to release some of this stuff. So I've been really far in my mind and in myself and just trying to really focus in on being in balance. And I'm really trying, I'm not trying to hold myself together, but, you know, I'm in this slow, like, nervous breakdown release since March. And at the same time, I'm recovering, and I'm also trying to live in the present moment. And I'm really trying to not project the future or onto the future, but just trying to deal with what's happened also this far. And whether, you know, it's fake memories or real memories, or these memories have been implanted or they haven't been implanted, or it still has to be done and it still has to come up because it's affecting me. And I want to move through the things that are highly affecting me. Now, I know that, you know, there's a good possibility that this is going to be a constant lifetime, you know, procession, you know, and I'm okay with that. But I just need to get stabilized now. I have to finish the unraveling and keep stabilizing. And also not repeating, you know, the past, you know, and really staying away from all of the HOOChY Mama stuff. And just, you know, I just want to have, not just want to have peace, but I want to have, like, calm abiding. And I want to have conflict resolution within myself mastered. And I just want to have, like, peace. And in a way where there's just not a lot of vibrations. And you know, the wind here has really been kind of aggravating a lot of the stuff, but it's also bringing the stuff up, like I was talking about, you know, early on is the irritation, that sandpaper that's just kind of like rubbing you. But also at the same time making you smooth. All right. So anyway, with that, one of my past HOOChY Mama stories, I'm going to let you go. Have a great day. Bridgette Dolgoff, Conscious of Economics and Urban Farm Project. Over and out. Bye.